And we're live.
Hello, and welcome to Open House at the Flyerbox Club. Big show for you today.
That's right.
And we're so excited that you got to join us. My name is Chad Peavy. I'm the CEO and founder of the Flyerbox Club. The Flyerbox Club is the in-house marketing company for the Southwest Market Center here in Austin. We help more than 900 amazing agents here out of this office with all their marketing needs, and we have virtual locations with market centers across the country. So if you're a team leader or an OP out there interested in having the the Flyerbox Club have a presence in your market center, you can go to helpmymarketcenter.com to learn more about that. I'm so excited every week to have my amazing co-host with me. This is Melanie.
Hello, everyone. Yes.
Melanie.
I love that you can say my name right. Can we just put it at that? No one can ever say or spell my name. So
I spell it right.
you can spell her and say her exactly right.
You're so welcome.
And thank you for that. We are so excited. We're here at the Austin Southwest where it all began. And Chad and I, we've been in business now together for
almost 3 years.
Gosh, almost 3 years. I can't believe it. And you've been such leverage for us. And when Chad started this show, it was so fun because then you had me as one of your guests. And
That's right.
Something that was always on my growth plan was having a show where I could interview great people in the real estate industry and tell their story. And so I love that we get to do this together. So you're going to see a lot of great interviews coming. We're so excited to have Tim Heyl today, who will be joining us in just a couple minutes. And before he joins us, we want to talk about a little bit from Family Reunion.
Before we do
yes,
that.
Okay. Yes.
Melanie is being coy, which is so unusual. But you have really exciting news that broke,
exciting news.
What, last week or this week?
This Tuesday morning.
Tell the kids at home what this exciting news is about.
This exciting news is staying in the team leader role, still here, so it doesn't change anything here. Mary Tennant and Gary Keller have made me the OP, the operating partner at the Northwest Market Center. Yay! This is what's so cool, and this is what I wanted to talk about actually from Family Reunion is that opportunities. And Quantum Leap was amazing, it always is. And then I went in Diana Kokoska's Roar, and she talks about opportunities. And I had done a live stream on it, and there's 3 kinds of opportunities. There's an opportunity seeker, an opportunity taker, and an opportunity maker. And what's so cool about that is at different phases of our lives, we each have like a piece of that. But the opportunity taker is actually the biggest kind of platform to have opportunities come back to you. And what's so neat is when Diane and I both moved to Austin, and Mary Tennant is an incredible leader, and Gary Keller, being in business with them itself is just an honor. But Mary had said there will be no opportunity in Austin because of the market centers that we have. And so here we are 6 years later of being in business. She created these opportunities. Diane is now, my partner team leader, Diane Johnson, is now the OP here in our market center. And then now I'm the OP in Northwest, which is so incredible. So when you really come from gratitude and there are no accidents in life, it's just really cool how it all comes together. So we're excited to grow and learn this weekend. We're just so privileged to be in business with you.
I'm excited for you. I know lots of people are super excited for you.
Yay!
Congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Well, you all tuned in today because of our special guest. And our guest today is an amazing guy, Tim Heyl. Hello, Tim.
Hello. Thanks for having me on the show, Chad.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it. I've seen so many of these happen now. I couldn't wait to get on it myself.
We're going to get the time
I love
right,
what you guys are doing. It's awesome.
It's going to be fun today.
Yeah,
because, Tim, basically, I've watched you grow up in front of my eyes for the past 6 years and loved every minute of it.
Well, and I've watched everything you've done. I just want to say congratulations, seriously, on what you guys were just talking about. Melanie was probably my second year in real estate.
Yeah, you're just her second year.
Yeah, right in the middle of my second year, Melanie came in and you've been an inspiration in my life. So I was just talking to some people at the Northwest Market Center, telling them how lucky they are.
Oh,
and
thank you.
I mean, it's a game changer for them to be able to be in business with you.
Yeah.
So
I adore you, and you're a gift to a lot of people. So thank you for saying that. That's very sweet.
Thanks.
So we want to know more about Tim. So we're going to ask you about your journey. Tim's like,
cool.
What are you going to ask? Because we never tell the guests what we're talking about.
It's always a surprise.
All right, Chad. Do I look at you or do I look at
you? Look at us.
Right there.
You look at us.
Okay.
So we like to start these with a question from the box.
All right. Great.
Do
I get to poll?
You get a poll.
You can do it. Yeah.
That way, it's totally not staged.
We have no idea what's coming.
They're all the same.
All right.
Anyway.
There you go.
All right.
Oh.
This is a good one.
This is good.
What do you wish you were better at saying no to?
Oh my gosh, that is a fantastic
That's a good question.
one.
Yeah.
What do I wish I was better at saying? Everything. Everything. I just got back from the Expansion Summit. with Keller Williams. It was in Phoenix, Arizona.
That sounded amazing.
It was awesome. It was the best. It was Kristen Cole put on this event that was just love those shoes. It's just fantastic event. And one of the speakers at the event, he said, he said, one of the questions that I ask myself is, I constantly ask myself throughout the entire day, no matter what I'm doing, what's my hourly wage? And is this something that's below or above my hourly wage? And as I started scrolling through the calendar of my past events and future events to come, sitting here looking at all of the things that are on here that are below my hourly wage, and my hourly wage is in my mind, as it should be for everybody watching this, should be what you see as your hourly wage should be a lot more than what it actually is. Because there's so much potential in what we're doing right now and what that's building towards. Right. So even if you haven't even sold one deal yet, if you are building a pipeline and you are building a business that you know is going to pay dividends, your hourly wage is worth more than zero. It's worth something, right? And so, man, saying no. Yeah. If I had to pick one thing that I wish I was better at saying no to, it would be, honestly, it would be just the little conversations when I'm moving from one thing to the next thing. And what I mean by that is I'll find myself hanging out sometimes in the office for an extra 30 minutes when I could be spending that time at home with my family, right? And when I get home, I go, what was I doing at the office?
That is so true.
You know what I mean?
And I have that same thing.
And so I would just say it's the little things. It's not even necessarily a request. It's more of my own decision of because I want to engage with the person there, and yet everything that you say yes to, you're saying no to something else. Everything. And so that's
a really good one. Man. That's a really good one because, like, let's say you have a normal time of when you're going to be home. It happens to me all the time. And then you think you're giving to somebody, but you're just saying no. You're just saying no to somebody else. You're just saying no to somebody else. And when your little ones get older, they notice that. Yeah. And my kids will be like, "Well, Mom, usually you're here," and it's like, "Oops," right? And it's so true because what you say no to, right?
Yeah. So so to put it in concrete, I would say saying no to anything that's happening before, like, in between 5:30 and 6 o'clock, because I'm committed to getting home by 6 every night. Yeah. And so I let too many things get in the way of that.
Right. And now that you just talked about it, it's probably going to change.
That's right. That's why I said it out loud. That's why I said it out loud. That's total accountability. That's right.
I love it. That's awesome.
Well, we've got a lot of questions for Tim today. But if you guys watching at home or at your office have questions for Tim, just put those questions in the comment box. And we'll be on the lookout for those, and we'll be sure to get those all answered today.
Anything is out there. Anything you want to know. I mean, this is your opportunity to ask Tim Heyl anything that's appropriate for the world to hear. Or inappropriate, because we get a little crazy, too. Anything you want, send it in, because this is your opportunity. Tim Heyl is not just an amazing human being. He's super smart. And he's going big places, so send those questions in.
Send those questions, and just for fun right now, while you're thinking of your question, go ahead and put in the comment box where you're watching from.
Oh, yeah.
I know we have lots of market centers out all over the place watching.
I know South Africa's watching.
Awesome. So put that in the comment box. We'd love to see that. And
that's awesome.
All right, cool.
Tim, you mentioned the expansion retreat. Tell us what was going on out there.
The expansion retreat. So it was called the Expansion Summit, the KW Expansion Summit. And what it was essentially, Gary Keller's got this thing called the Pirate Group. And the Pirate Group is, it's not necessarily the top producers in Keller Williams, but it's who Gary feels like are leaders in KW at the agent level that definitely are in that top group of production, yet are team players that are really focused on building this company of Keller Williams in alignment with building their individual teams and individual companies. And so Kristen Cole asked this Pirate Group to come and give presentations. So we presented on everything from getting in business with talent to what it takes, how to go from not doing any business to consistently taking 10 listings a month, to all kinds of expansion conversations. There were breakouts, masterminds, all kinds of really cool, high level, probably the highest level of expansion systems orientation conversation that there's been. And yet the other cool thing is it was a networking ground for agents that are not only expanding, but also agents. See, there's going to be this whole wave coming in the future with expansion where agents that are doing $5 million a year or $3 million a year, or some agents that are doing 10, 20, and 30 million a year. In fact, we're even been talking to agents that are doing as high as 40 and 50 million a year that haven't spent the last few years and hundreds of thousands of dollars building out a platform. They've been just running around selling houses at a high level, making a ton of money, but realizing they don't have the platform to expand.
Right.
We're starting to see partnerships now. And so we're seeing a lot of top producers going to these events, meeting with teams that are already expanding at a high level, looking how can we partner together to utilize my skill set, my leadership, and my influence and ability to recruit and lead, and your platform that you've already built. So it's really cool to see what this thing is looking like, and real estate's going to be different over the next few years.
It's kind of like the partnership with the mega agents in Keller Williams.
That's right.
Because you guys franchised yourself within our franchise.
And
That's
it
why
was
it's such a
weird.
beautiful.
And it was weird, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I first
It was
started,
new.
teams were around, and yet they weren't like what they are today. I
Yeah.
mean, in the Southwest Market Center here, we have legitimate 20 or 30 legitimate businesses
Totally.
here. That I mean,
Yeah.
it's amazing to see.
It is amazing. One more thing about the Pirates is I really see you guys are the pioneers. I mean, you guys are the guys that you are the making it happen people. You're on the cutting edge, and people are watching you. And I think you're the trendsetters. And Bobby Moats, did you see Bobby Moats there?
Oh yeah.
So Bobby
talked about him from stage.
Did you really? Okay, well, Bobby
Love
Moats,
Bobby.
who we just had Shayna on last month.
Yeah.
Bobby at ALC, we just had our ALC meeting, and Bobby was saying that he went to ESO for 2 days,
Yep.
and he went to that right after.
Yep.
And he's so glad he did because it answered so many questions. And it was he said it was the highest level training he'd been to.
Well, this is what Bobby and I had lunch together while we were out there in Phoenix, and I said, Bobby, what's the number one takeaway that you have, and where are you going to expand first?
That's awesome.
And his answer was the coolest answer. And part of the reason that I think it's the coolest answer, selfishly, is that it was my answer when I went to ESO the first time, which was I'm not expanding,
Yeah.
and I just learned about all the gaps in my business that I need to go back and plug up. This
Yeah.
has been the best business training that I've
Right.
ever been to.
Right.
And so his whole thing was, I'm going to expand, but the next place or the next that's not what's on my mind right now.
Right.
What's on my mind right now is I just learned about the 9 things I need to do to have the infrastructure to be able to go expand,
Right.
and I'm headed back to go do those.
That's awesome.
So it was just such a cool systems and business
So cool.
training.
Do you remember when we went to the first ESO together?
Yeah.
It was so cutting edge. It was so foreign to everybody. And I remember when Kristen asked the room, she said, "How many of you are ready to expand another city?" And everybody's hand went up. Remember
Yep.
that?
Yep.
And then after 2 days, she said, "So how many of you feel now that you are ready? You got your systems in place and you're ready to expand?" I think
It's like nobody. Yeah. Because everybody realized, right now I'm running this show.
Right.
And if I'm going to expand, I'm going to expand what I've made able to work without me running the show.
Right.
And that's a
Totally.
difference. You're not expanding a job. You're expanding a duplicatable system that you've already built locally.
And I can't wait to ask you more about that in a minute. I always say about Gary Keller that he's like the Steve Jobs of real estate. And this is exactly what I mean when I say that. He thinks differently. And look, he attracts people like you and we want to talk about this later on and why that is, but nobody's doing this. You can expand and create this amazing multi-million-dollar business within Keller Williams.
Yep.
Why haven't you gone off on your own?
It's a great question.
It's a really great question.
Well, I'll just start by saying that I was committed to going off on my own when I joined
Right.
Keller.
I've heard you say that, which is why I wanted
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
hear from you.
Yeah, so I joined. There was a rule at the time that you had to be an agent under a brokerage for 2 years. Now that I think that's 4 or something.
It's changed a little bit, yeah.
But it was 2 years, and so I said, okay, so I'm going to go to a discount broker. That was my first thing. I'm going to go to a discount broker. I'm going to pay as little as possible, and then after 2 years, I'm going to go. And fortunately, I had the wisdom of my father, who said. He said, if you're going to go do this for 2 years under a brokerage, why would you not go somewhere where you can learn and be developed, and so that when you do go off and start your own, that you actually have experience and perspective. So I said, okay, there's some wisdom in that. So ended up through a series of events coming here, but with the full expectation of leaving. And then coming here was this series of value. So at first it was Ignite, and coming in and learning everything they didn't teach you in real estate school, right?
Coming
Right.
in as a skeptic.
Yeah.
Oh,
Did
totally.
you, did you
Totally.
plug in, or were you a little resistant to that at the beginning?
Well, you came to get training, right?
I came to get plugged in. I will say that there was about a 6-month period where I wasn't plugged in, and that was my own fault. And so what happened was I was kind of kept to myself, right? And after I started opening up and having more conversations with people, then I learned about, oh my gosh, there's this thing that I didn't know about. I'm going to go to that. Oh wait, how did I not hear about this? the more people I opened myself up to, the more things I would hear about that were happening. The more I would go and get plugged in, and the more I would get plugged in, the more I would get plugged in at a higher level and a higher level and a higher level. Actually, I tell this to people all the time. I just talked to an agent the other day. I said I was asking about what value he's getting from being here at Keller Williams. He's telling me, and I'm like, dude, what about these things? And he's going, well, I don't know about those. Tell me about those.
Yeah.
And so it's like it took me opening up and meeting more people, talking to more people. So here I come, and the value is Ignite, and then the value is Bold.
Yeah, you jump right into Bold,
such
right?
a huge experience for me. Then the value was being in MAPS coaching, right? And then the value became learning as a leader, giving back in the market center and things like that. And then it became going to the national events, the masterminds, the expansion summit type events, mega camp, family reunion, meeting people that were on a national level. You find a lot more people that are at significantly higher levels than you even thought about being, right? And so you start meeting these other people, and so then you start playing at this national level and building this network, and then all of a sudden it just kept going to a higher and higher level. And now what I would say is the network that Keller Williams has provided, and I don't mean from like we can give referrals to each other kind of network. What I mean is how I've grown as a person, where my business is at today, and the perspective I have of where I'm headed is because of the people I'm surrounded by on a national level in Keller Williams. And not to mention the talent that I'm in business with today. I was just telling Melanie, I probably shouldn't say this on live camera, but we just got into business with a amazing woman in Reno, Nevada.
Who I happen to hire.
Who Melanie actually introduced me to, right? And through a series of events, we knew we had all kinds of connections and relationships, and it's without this network, you could call it a family, you could call it a cult, you could call it so many different things. Without it,
culture.
The culture. No, I'm an Aggie, and I would say something, and everyone calls it a cult, and I sit there and go, so what? I freaking love it,
Right.
But from the outside looking in, I get it. People think Aggies are weird. Totally get it. I'm self-aware to know that people think Aggies are weird, and I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with Keller Williams.
True.
But I love being a part of it. It's the most incredible thing, and the just where my business is today. I would be. Here's the thing, Chad. I'm so long-winded. I apologize.
We love it though.
To answer the question,
we work less.
To answer the question, where my business would be today, I would be an independent broker. Had I left after 2 years, I'd be an independent brokerage. I'd have a bunch of agents, and I'd be making some good money, and we'd be succeeding because I'm committed to succeeding. I'm gonna figure it out, and yet. It would the vision and the opportunity and the game plan would be so small, so exponentially smaller than what it is right now. That just knowing that alone makes me never want to leave the environment and the relationships that I have here, because I know the trajectory of where I'm going has to do with who I'm surrounding myself with. Right? Success is built off three things. It's built off of how you think, which has totally changed my life by being a part of this organization. And if you're in this organization, quantum leap, you got to go, right? Yeah. How you think as an individual, the habits you form, right? The habits I formed have totally changed. I mean, I weighed almost 300 pounds when I joined KW.
I tell everybody that when I go off into classes. I was like, Tim was a really chunky kid with bad shoes.
Yeah. Oh,
look at him now.
The worst. Yeah. I know.
That's it. I look at him now.
Shoes. So bad. And I never saw him as chunky, but
lonely, like walking around the halls.
And see, when you hang out with Chad Peavy, the habits of buying shoes actually exponentially increase.
Exactly.
So, and by the way, you brag on shoes.
About how far you've come.
Lift your foot up real quick. Lift your foot up.
Check out these shoes.
Those are pretty nice shoes.
They're
there.
Python.
Yeah, that's right.
You're welcome. Okay, there's three things.
How you think, the habits you form, and who you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
And that's it. And that's going to determine your success. And as I started to figure that out, I went, why would I ever want to go be independent? If I'm independent, then I'm the king of the castle. I'm surrounding myself with,
You're the lid. You're the ceiling.
You're the lid, right?
Yeah.
And you never want to be the lid.
That's right.
You never want to be the lid.
Smartest guy in the room, right?
Yeah.
Not a place you want to be.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
That's it.
Well, I think you kind of already talked about how you got started. Let's talk about some of the failing forward moments, because you do so. I mean, I've interviewed you countless times on, in front of the whole group, and your story is so incredible. And I think when we teach together and you share that, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
You had a lot of. It wasn't always easy for Tim Heyl. It didn't start off like you out of the gates at all. Why don't you share some of that?
All right, so I office back there. Actually, no, hold on. So I started out, I was literally my parents' basement, which was like 45 minutes away from here, right? And I couldn't get any reception out there, so I'd start coming working in the bullpen.
Yep.
And then everybody's coming in and talking. So
Outside
I'd go
of Betsy's office.
Yeah, outside of Betsy's office. That's right.
Every day.
That's right. And I remember you were in that corner over there. And I would go, and finally I'd take the conference room, actually, which was right here where we're sitting.
Yeah.
And I would come and sit in this conference room until Linda started telling me I can't hog the conference rooms to work all day. So I'm literally getting kicked out of everywhere I go.
Oh, that's funny.
And so I finally get a closing or two, and I share this closet the size of like this chair and that chair combined with Tori Ketter, right?
How funny.
So we're sharing, and I'd come in the morning, he'd come in the afternoons. We had it worked out, and I was once I had gone to Bold and once I had really learned what it takes to succeed in this business, I got committed, and I was committed to lead generation no matter what. And it was a mixture. I'd call my friends and family. I'd call expired and FSBO listings. I would whatever it was. I was committed for 4 hours a day every day generating leads. The first big failures were mindset failures, because what would happen is my friends, family, the surrounding world saw me as a telemarketer, and I saw myself as like, I'm building this big business, I'm going to go out and take over the world. And then they're going, are you still doing that telemarketing thing?
Yeah.
And so that was tough. And then there would be days or weeks sometimes, where I would be on the phones for 4 hours a day for a whole week in a row and get nothing.
Nothing, yeah.
And I remember specifically talking to my sister on the phone, and she's asking me how it's going, and I just remember having this conversation of like, I don't even know if what I'm doing even works.
Yeah.
Like, I have no proof to even know if it actually works. My first year, I'd spent over 1,000 hours on the phone, 4 hours a day for 250 days, and I closed 9 deals from all of my lead generation efforts. So there were all these people in the market center around me that are doing like way more business than me, anywhere from 50 to 100 to 200 deals a year.
Right.
And I did 9 from prospecting, and then I got some more from friends and family that kind of trickled in.
Right. Think of the resilience, though.
Huge letdown.
Our first sign, letdown from results, but resilience that you didn't give up.
Yeah.
Okay, so then keep going.
Yeah, so what happens, I'm listening to Gary Keller's podcast, Agent Mountain, every morning. I listen to all the archives, everything that I could absorb. And Gary was writing the book The One Thing at the time. We didn't know that, but everything he's putting out there is about focus and time blocking and commitment to your one thing and all this. And so I'm just soaking it all up, right? And so I'm committed regardless. So we go into the next year, bring on an assistant. Things are starting to go up. The third year, things are looking really good. I did about $1 million in commissions, just under $1 million in commissions in my third year in the business, and I had a team of 2 administrative people. One was like a marketing and executive assistant, and one was a listing manager, transaction manager, and then I had a buyer's agent. Yeah. And these were all awesome people, all 3 of them, just first class people, and I had one of those teams that was tight. We were
lean
efficient.
And mean, right?
We were lean and mean.
Yeah.
We did 135 units.
Yeah.
It was just under $1 million in gross commission income. We're crushing it. And then, I've told you this story before. I walked into my office. Now we had a little bit bigger of a space, and I walked in. There's a note on the door, taped on the door, and I open it up, and it's 3 pages of single-spaced, 12-point font of why my first hire said, I quit, I'm done, I'm sick of working with you,
right.
And here's why you're a huge jerk for the next 3 pages, and just FYI, basically.
That was a. I mean, don't underplay that. That was really painful for you. I remember that was a huge hit for you. You're also very close friends.
Yeah.
And so that was this was a turning point in your life, though. So.
Yeah, it was a huge turning point in my life because of a couple of things. Number one, I had never, it was like breaking up with a girlfriend or a boyfriend, right? I had never actually gotten out of business with anybody before. And so I didn't think it was real, right? So I'm like, I go to his apartment, I'm like knocking on the door.
Yeah,
and
come on, let's get over this, right?
So it was real. And I remember going to my house, my apartment. I had just gotten married, maybe 2 or 3 months prior. I had just gotten married, and I remember going and sitting on the couch with Liz and just sobbing. Like, and I don't cry. Like, I haven't cried.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard for me to cry. I cried the other night when I watched this movie. That's a whole other story about
funny.
this guy's daughter died, and I haven't cried during a movie in my entire life.
Yeah.
But being a dad now, yeah.
Welcome to that.
Yeah, I remember just sitting there and just sobbing,
Yeah.
and
Hit
I
you
didn't.
big time.
It hit so hard because what happened was a series of events of that group going on to start a business outside without me. And,
were you aware of those issues? Were you self-aware as it was going on, or was that a major revelation when you saw it?
I was self-aware as it was going on. Here's what happened. I was super self-aware, which was why every time I would lose my temper or whatever it was, I was always super quick to come and apologize. Hey, that wasn't right. I shouldn't have acted that way. I shouldn't have. Our customer said that you lied, and the reality is I should have asked you about it first instead of just coming down your throat about it. I was super self-aware, yet over and over and over again, I was not changing my behavior, right? And I wasn't changing my behavior, and it had a lot to do with just immaturity,
well, you're 25,
being stressed out. I was 24.
24.
I was 24, and I was I was busy, I was busy and I was immature and I hadn't been through these types of relationships before. It's one thing when you yell at your friends.
That's right.
Because I yell at my college friends all the time, right? The last 4 years I've been in college, and when you yell at your college friends, they yell back at you, and then you go and then you don't talk to each other for a day, and then you come back and you're playing basketball together, right?
That's so funny.
Because you're on equal basketball together. You have a responsibility to that person. This is no longer a friendship.
Yeah.
And I hadn't had that type of relationship before.
Sure.
And it was a total game changer in my life.
Yeah.
And so without, I had a series. So here I am. We had about 100 between active buyers and listings in the system and all this stuff. And you would walk into my little office and there were folders because nothing was I had nothing technology oriented yet. So I have folders all over the office. The phone's ringing like crazy. If I would answer it, I'd miss 6 calls in between each call.
Yeah.
I was so stressed out, I thought I was going to literally have to just stop selling real estate altogether. My reputation was about to be shot.
Yeah.
Real estate agents are furious with me because I'm not calling them back. I mean, it was bad. And, I had, I always say if it weren't for coaching during that time, I don't know that I would have gotten through, because the coaching at first was literally therapy for me to help me understand that, not everything is my fault, and I have massive DNA on this issue and need to figure out if I'm going to continue the way I am or if I'm going to actually make a change. Mm-hmm. And that coach who worked with me actually made me make some serious commitments, and those commitments were conditional for him coaching with me and continuing to work with me.
Yeah. And
making those changes and following through with those commitments weren't easy. For example, I had to take a 4-day class 10 times. That's 40 days of stepping away from a chaotic mess.
When you're so busy and you can't even get to it. Yeah.
Yeah. And
here's another thing, but you were coachable, and think about that. You were willing to do whatever it took.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Chad, I love that you asked the self-aware question, because one of the things that we look for when we hire people, we say our 3 core values are that they're humble, that they're hungry, and that they're smart. And when we talk about smart, we're not talking about rocket scientists here. It's not that hard to sell real estate. But what we're talking about is self-awareness. If they're not self-aware, they're not going to be able to fix any of the other emotional intelligent problems that they might have, like empathy or self-regulation, like the one I really struggled with, right? Things like that. They're not going to be able to grow in those areas if they lack the awareness piece. So that's when we look to hire somebody, that's one of the key things that's important for us. And it's really, you can't really fake self-awareness. It's pretty easy to see if somebody's not aware of how their actions are making everybody else feel and look and think.
Tell the kids at home your 3 things again.
Humble, hungry, and smart.
I love that.
3 core values that we have.
We have a question.
Okay, great.
Claire Boney says, what was one of your big shifts in mindset that changed the way you lead?
Big shifts in mindset that changed the way I lead.
Thanks for the question, Claire.
Yeah, thank you, Claire. So, big shift in mindset. I would say the first thing was that I actually made it a priority. Mm-hmm. I actually realized, oh my gosh, I am a leader. I do have responsibility. It's not just about selling houses and making my clients happy. And I think it was just a shift of prioritization, of realizing what's important, and taking a step back and going, if I'm going to do anything in my life, I've got to learn how to lead and treat other people first. And the people that are closest to you typically be the one, if you do treat people poorly, it's typically the ones that are closest to you, right? It's the ones that we don't know that well that we're always, we got to be super respectful of them. And it's the ones that we know and that they know us really well that really changes. And what I realized was not only do I need to focus on leading and how I'm treating people, but the priority of who I'm putting.
And who's getting that time.
Who's getting that time and who's getting, all that stuff. It's funny, my wife wrote me a little, because this is my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time. We would get in fights because she would call me in the middle of the workday because she lived in Dallas and she wanted to talk, right? And so I would answer the phone and I'm like, hey, what's up? What do you need? What's up?
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm just called to talk. And I'm like, okay, well, yeah, everything's good. Do you need something? Like immediately we're like off into getting into a fight, because here I am answering my phone with no intention of having a real conversation, just right. And here she is, just wanting to engage and build a relationship and have a conversation. And so we just literally just last night we dug up in this drawer. I have this note she wrote me that I used to keep in my wallet. I don't carry a wallet anymore, but I used to keep this note with me that said something like it was a sweet note that said, when frustrated with Liz, check these 3 things, and she gave me like 3
she did.
and it was so cute, and it was so cool that I carried it around with me forever. And we looked at it, and I showed it to her, and I said, what do you think? Do I still need this? And she laughed. She's like, I can't even believe, just because the change from the way I used to act, my shortness of temper, it's all about what I'm focused on, versus my ability to step back and go, if I'm going to answer the phone, it's because this person's important to me right now, and I'm going to engage with this person, and I'm going to do what's best for this person. Otherwise, I'm not going to answer the phone right now because what I'm doing is more important, and then I'm going to get back to this person.
That's right.
So I started realigning my priorities all the way around and realigning who was important in my life and all that. So
it's so funny, because I remember. Do you remember my original office over there? And it was one of the first sessions we sat down. Do you remember? And you had a pen in your hand, and your foot was tapping, and we were like talking about why you weren't getting some listings, and you were competing with these 2 other guys in town. They're good friends of yours now.
Yeah.
and you literally couldn't look me in the eye. And I said, Tim, may I coach you? And you said, yes. I said, put the pen down, stop hitting your feet, and look me in the eye. Yeah. Because if you were at my house right now, we'd be done, right? Yeah. And I said, show up like the person I know you are. You're already thinking about what you're going to do after you meet with me.
Right.
And to see you from now to today, if you get Tim time, you've evolved so much. But that's a skill that you have to master, right? And so many people will do that. Like, they don't have time to take that call, and it's usually the most treasured people in your life that you treat that way.
I think you've always been amazing.
Oh, thank you, Chad.
Well, I always thought he was amazing too. He's just now.
I would have never criticized you.
Tim, I love
Shayna
you.
Moe says, what books are you reading right now, and what is your favorite leadership book?
Yes, that's a great question,
Shayna. Thank you for the question, Shayna.
Yes, thank you.
All right, so what books am I reading right now? I just started this morning Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. It's about his story of building Nike. I just started this morning. I read it. Well, I listened to an hour of it. So one of the things that I do is I'll listen on Audible and read the book. At the same time, you can go super fast, 2.5 or 3x speed.
Wow.
And just do it in short increments, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And so Shoe Dog is what I'm reading right now. However, I just finished reading, what's the Great Teams, 16 Things That Great Teams Do. It was a book that Maps Coaching sent out. And it's by Don Yeager.
Okay.
It was a great book. Rocket Fuel is one I would recommend if you're building a business. It talks about the 2 types of leaders you're going to need to build a business, a visionary and an integrator. The best leadership book that I've read. Okay, so 2 books I just finished reading. The Go-Giver, which you can read in like 30 minutes. It's super short. The Go-Giver, it takes maybe like an hour. But The Go-Giver was a really good leadership book. But the other one that was great was Leaders Eat Last. And that book is written by Simon Sinek, and it talks all about how in a business, everything has to be built around this circle of trust. And especially for us real estate agents, if we're building teams or building businesses, we're probably moving really fast. At least in the early years, you're moving fast, right? And you're growing, and lots of things are happening, yet you have no idea what it's going to look like 3 years from now or 7 years from now. The vision board that I used to draw for how my business would run, looks nothing like what my business is today. It was just as big and just as
Yeah.
exciting, yet structurally and financially, like things are different, right? And so because you don't know exactly what it's going to be like, whatever you tell your people that you bring on, it probably is going to change. And that's just one example. But what Simon Sinek talks about is this circle of trust is the foundation for all the relationships in your company. It all starts with the leader in the company having empathy for everybody else in the company. So the book is all about how empathy is actually the key characteristic for a leader to grow an organization built on trust. And it was fantastic. I loved it.
Yeah.
The greatest leadership book of all time, I would just say it's not a book, it's Quantum Leap. You got to go take the class. It's a one-day class. Actually, Wendy and I are teaching the class. When are Wendy and I
teaching that with you guys.
And Melanie, yeah.
April 30th, that last Saturday, the 29th?
Yeah, email
April.
Chad.
Yeah.
Email Chad and figure out
we'll post it on it.
when we're teaching it, because here's
Yeah.
the thing. That's a class that it is a book. There's material, yet it's all about unleashing your potential to build your purposeful life. And when you can lead yourself, and it talks about, by the way, it talks about how you think, it talks about the habits you form, it talks about who you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
When you focus on that and focus on you first, and you lead, it's like the airplane deal, right? Like put the mask on yourself
Right.
before you try and help somebody else, because you're going to try and help them, you're going to lose breath and
pass out.
both
It won't
of-
go to
both of
you.
you are
Right,
gone,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing with leadership. It's you got to work on yourself first, and then you go work on other people. In Quantum Leap, it's a selfish class. It's all about working on you, and it's one of the most important things I think we do.
Have you taken that, Chad? Quantum Leap?
No.
You need to take that. You should even come to the one that we do on that Saturday.
It's
but
the best.
Here's the thing with Quantum Leap. Quantum Leap is a gift from Gary Keller, isn't it? I mean, it is a game changer class, because the whole reason why we're doing it for the youth that are from 18 to 24 year olds is so that they can start. Well, you see, you were young when you started, so you were already way ahead of the curve. I was 35 when I got licensed, so I didn't hear Quantum Leap until my mid 30s. It makes you think differently. It teaches you how to think differently. And back to the leadership circle thing, Tim, I just have to say, you're obviously exceeding and excelling at such a high level because you have amazing people around you.
Thank you. Thank
You
you.
have
That's
done
the greatest compliment you could give me.
It is
So,
amazing.
thank you.
So that's why I tell the story of, and I've always loved you. You know that. That's why I can tease him about sitting
See,
still.
now she feels bad because
See,
you
I
gave
feel
her-
he knows I have love for him.
how it works.
And to see you today, surrounded by your number one goal is how can you create opportunities for people. I know that about you, and I love that about you. And that's such. And he's done this in such a short time. I mean, blink, right? I mean, for you it feels like forever, but in a 7-year window.
Yeah.
Look at what you've created, and that's why I think it is so special about your story.
I wanted to ask you about, you've started other businesses outside of real estate.
Cool.
Talk about, well,
Yeah.
share that.
Some good, some
Share
not
that.
so good. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, so here's what I will say first is I didn't build a vision big enough. I read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, and I said, I want to go do that. And I thought it would take me 17 years. And in 5 years' time, Gary Keller stands up there on stage and says, you're no longer than 5 years away from living the best life you've ever dreamed about living, from being the best person you've ever imagined being. You're no more than 5 years away. And yet I thought this was going to take me 17 years. So all of a sudden I surpassed the vision that I had written down, and confusion set in. See, one of the things that I know to be true from my path has been that when you're super clear on where you're going and why you're going there and what it looks like,
Yeah.
everything else is just everything else. It's like you wake up in the morning and bam, you're laser focused and you're getting it done. I experienced that for 5 years straight. I experienced that. And when you're hazy on where you're going or why you're going there or what it might look like when you get there, when you're hazy on that, all of a sudden you start making all these decisions that are out of alignment, because if true north is here, alignment means every decision you make is like this. If true north is here and you're not clear on that, you don't know if it's over here, over there, or up there. You start making all these different decisions,
You're just
and all of a sudden
grasping, right?
you're all
Yeah.
over the place.
Right.
And I definitely got to a place where I was all over the place. I mean, I at one point I think I owned 10 different businesses. Right? It was all over the place. And what I found was the standard that I have can't be upheld when I'm all over the place. The passion and the drive that I want to insert into my company can't be inserted into my company when I'm all over the place. And so I realized that, first of all, you succeed through people. And the quality of the people you bring on determine the quality of the results that you get.
Absolutely.
And when you're all over the place, and when you have 10 different visions you're trying to pitch,
Yeah.
none of them are really that big, so the quality of the person you're attracting isn't that great. And so what I realized is by shutting some down and aligning others in the right direction, all of a sudden, everything's part of this massive vision that's headed true north. And if you're not on board with true north, you don't need to be here. And if you are on board with true north, you're only going to contribute to the vision that much more. And it's been incredible. It was very stressful. I say 2013, after my team fell apart.
Yeah.
2013 was the most stressful, chaotic year of my life, without question. But the second most stressful year was probably mid 2015 to mid 2016 because I was all over the place, and I recognized it, and I realized I have to make some serious changes.
Yeah.
And by the way, I was making more money than I'd ever made in my life. But what was happening is I'd wake up in the morning and I didn't know which thing to think about.
Right.
I didn't know which person to pour into. I didn't know which, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And so all of a sudden I realized, okay, here we go. And it's got to get in alignment. And hard decisions, super hard decisions. There's this book. If you feel like you're facing hard decisions, by the way, there's a book called The Hard Thing About Hard Things. Fantastic book. Just to help guide you through some
cool.
serious hard decisions we have to make as business owners.
Yeah.
So anyway, continuing to make those decisions and get everything back in alignment took a long time. From the time I said, "Here's my commitment, I'm getting back in alignment," to the time that it actually got there was like 12 months, maybe longer. And
you think about gardening, for example. Like when you have a tree, for example, and it has all of these little branches that are sticking off, and those branches die, or they're not thriving. What happens if you don't break that branch off? It sucks the energy out of the core, right?
Yeah.
And so it's really important when you have something that you're growing and you want it to grow up, and you want it to go north. If you're not breaking off those branches that don't need to be there, you're not giving that energy to where you need to be. That's such a correlation for you, I think.
I wrote this course called "Whoever Has the Best Talent Wins," and and I was just teaching it up there and presenting it at the Expansion Summit. And kind of one of the last things that I say in the course is a quote from Gary Keller. He says, if you every time you hit a ceiling and you don't know where to go next, or you're frustrated and you're feeling that sense of frustration, you're missing a relationship. And I would add to it, you're either missing a relationship or you've got one that you need to cut. It's one of the two things every time you feel frustrated, because it's never about how or what. It's always about who.
Yeah.
When you have the right who, the how and the what is you get into a room and you just start figuring it out and building energy off of figuring it out. When you don't have the right who, you're always frustrated with how and what.
So true.
And so
true.
I would just recommend, if you've ever, any day of the week, if you sense this frustration, just ask the question, who?
Yeah.
And then start thinking about, who am I surrounding myself with? Maybe it's the wrong mentors, maybe it's the wrong friends, maybe it's the wrong employees, maybe it's the wrong business partners. It's not always necessarily your employee.
Right.
But it could be.
Yeah.
And you got to always ask that question.
Could it be you?
Oh, it could definitely be you.
What do you do then?
It could definitely be you. You got to get out of the way.
Well, it's like Gary Keller's story, right?
I'm glad you asked that. So here I was trying to expand 3.5 years ago, and honestly, sucking at it.
That's where I am.
You might need to fire yourself.
So it's
who's the
me.
who?
Well, so here's the thing. Have you read Rocket Fuel?
It's on my nightstand.
It's on your nightstand. Perfect.
It's in the list. I gotta stack this.
You're like my friend. You're like my friend Andy.
I got all these books.
I was in this networking group.
I'm always reading. It's just
I was in this networking group
Yeah.
yesterday. Here's the deal. My friend Andy said we had to make our commitments for what we were going to do by this time next month. And his commitment was he was going to buy this book that he was going to read.
To buy
and I was like, dude, you could do that in like the next 15 seconds. That's your 30-day commitment?
Oh my
God.
God.
Let me just say this about Rocket Fuel. You can read the entire book, because you don't have to read it word for word. This is one of those books you can read in like literally 1 hour or less if you just flip through, read the key parts. Super easy read. But my guess, and I don't know you well enough to know for sure, but my guess is that you're probably a lot more like me, and you're more of a visionary. A visionary can see everything that needs to get done. They can see the abstract that's way out there and not be worried about how messy it is right here, and understand, here's where we're going, here's where we need to get, and here's all the problems that exist right now, and you can identify every single one of them, right? But going from here to there just sounds like a huge pain in the butt. Yeah.
Sounds like you, right?
And here's what I'll say is I keep getting in the way by trying to jump out there and do it. And what I realized is the leader of the organization is always the bottleneck. Right, Gary Keller's the bottleneck of KW. He is, right? And so he constantly works on getting himself out of the way, but very strategically. He's always moving. He's always firing himself up, right? And he's always putting the right person in place that is the right person. And then if they become the bottleneck, he's quick to get them out of the way. Yeah. But he's always asking himself, "Am I the bottleneck? Oh crap, I am. I gotta layer up." And so when Matt took over the role of expanding. All of a sudden, two things happen. Number one, Matt has this exceptional ability to drive execution, accountability, and bring alignment into the organization to communicate among everybody at a super high level that, honestly, that I'm just not very good at.
Yeah.
And not only that, Matt has weak points too. And by me not having anything to do, because I got out of that role and didn't have a job anymore, all of a sudden, I start seeing all the things that need to happen. And I start seeing where he's doing well and where he's not doing well. So when I meet with him, I'm able to take him out of the weeds, helicopter up, he sees it all and he goes, okay, I got it. Boom, he goes.
Back in.
And then a week later, I had a whole week to read books and think and do all the great things that a visionary gets energy from doing. Yeah. That I couldn't do when I was in the weeds. So we meet again and I go, dude, I got it. We want to go here. And by the way, look into how you're doing these things. And he's going, oh yeah, you're right. Okay, boom, I got it. And that's why the book's called Rocket Fuel, because when you get that, it's takeoff time and you feel it.
And if
don't you feel like the productivity, like when I'm doing like the visionary work and I look at the end of the week and I'm like, what did I actually do this week?
Yeah, so here's what I will say. Two things with that. Number one, if you're watching this, if you're still really small, you're going to have to do both. You can't, unless you have a true 50-50 partner that you started with or whatever, like you're going to have to be good enough to do both or work hard enough to do both for a certain period of time until you find that right person. But here's what I will also say, is when I got out of production, and I remember specifically having this conversation with Matt when he got out of production, I said, look, dude, here's the deal. I want to tell you one thing. You're going to crush it in this position, but you're going to have an identity crisis. I said I had an identity crisis because the success of this business was directly related to how hard I worked, how early I got in, how many things I could get done. Yeah. And when you get out of production and you get into this leadership role,
it's muddy.
And days will come and go where you're not really in that mode yet, and you're not really getting it done yet. And you can't. I will say I've wasted a lot of time because you feel like you think you're doing the right thing or working on the right path, but it's not as black and white as did I make a sale today?
That's right.
You know what I mean? It's not as black and white. And I certainly had an identity crisis coming out of that, and Matt now talks about how he did too. Yeah. Because Matt's a hard worker. Matt would be the first one in the office and the last one to leave, and that's why he crushed the production he did in his first year and did all those things. So getting out of that role, and all of a sudden it was about who he got into that production role, not about him working harder. It does create that, and it's not time. Time is not this. How much I can pack into my day is actually
irrelevant. What's the solution to push through it, though?
The solution to push through it.
When did you realize, like, okay, I recognize what was happening there. I may have not felt great about it, but
yeah, I would say having a really great mentor to and a coach, but a really great mentor. See the difference? A coach is going to ask you what's important and then hold you accountable to getting there. Mm-hmm. A mentor is going to help you do what they think you need to do based on their perspective. And so it's different than coaching. So you got to make sure you get the right mentor, otherwise they'll take you down the totally wrong path, right? Totally wrong path.
Yeah.
But having a really good mentor has always helped make sure that I'm going in the right direction. And when I get off path, they're quick to point it out.
Yeah. And real quick before we take that question or we go to that, because of the relationship that you have with Matt, and like you're saying, when we have our weekly meeting and we're looking at it and he's like, yeah, got it, and goes back in, there's a trust there, right? And it's all, like you said, it's about trust and empathy, and you all have the same vision, and it's not I think a lot of times people take accountability and they make it a negative.
Yeah.
And Susan,
Matt says accountability is the greatest gift I can ever give to anyone.
Absolutely, because you're holding someone able. From Fierce Conversations, Susan Scott talks about holding people able. And I think that that's so key, is that accountability, but in a way that I care about you. Yeah. I want you to hit your goals. Yeah. And so I'm coming from a perspective of...
And Chad, you're probably like me, where my quote about accountability is if I have to hold you accountable, you're not hungry enough to be here.
That's
well, exactly.
I don't hire people that need a boss.
Right, no, so that's it. So here's what I'll say is they're both right.
They're both, your team is nodding.
They're going,
all right.
They're like, yep.
But here's the deal. It's like I don't have time. I don't have time, or really the patience.
And
If you're not, and I tell Matt, sometimes I get frustrated and I say, Matt, if you care more about his success than he cares about his own success, get rid of him and quit spending time with him.
That's right.
That's my attitude, and that's why they don't let me spend time with everyone. That's why Matt is in that role, because the reality is accountability is a gift and it's leadership. And the company needs it, and yet you might not be the one that needs to provide it.
That's right.
Another quote, I'm a Gary fan, right? So Gary says, are you trying to do it the best you can do it? Are you trying to be the best you can be, or are you trying to make it be the best it can be done? And there's a difference there. A big difference there. And that's when I go, yeah, I want it to be the best it can be done.
Right.
Okay, well, I'll get out of the way then.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we have a question
Nick has
from our
questions.
audience.
Nick Landis, thanks for the question, sir.
We have some live audience here, too. This is great.
That's awesome. What is the number one thing you would tell a new agent and an agent ready to take their business to the next level?
Great. Well, I would tell a new agent a couple of things. Let's start with that one.
Okay.
I would tell a new agent, number one, get ready for a journey. You know, there's a book
If you
called
want it.
Yeah. Well, if you don't, if you don't want it, if you don't want it, go get a job.
Yeah,
that's right.
Because this is, we get into real estate for freedom.
That's
Okay,
right.
that's what everybody gets in for, freedom, and that means something different to everybody. Usually, it means I want to make a lot of money and I don't want to work.
Right.
That's usually what freedom means. And the reality
I know a
is,
few of those.
anything worth having in life always requires serious commitment, and you got to get ready for a journey. There's going to be ups and there's going to be downs, and it's going to be super frustrating.
Yeah.
And the number one thing that you've got to decide is that you're committed to being consistent in the things that matter most. And here's the thing: it's not this mystery, and we all get to pick a different thing that matters most. In growing your real estate business, lead generation is the thing that matters more than anything else.
Right.
And being consistent in the results that you get for yourself on a daily basis, not a yearly or monthly, I'm talking about on a daily basis, you've got to decide what results do I need to bring in to make sure that I'm moving the ball forward at the rate that I expect to move it forward. And whatever that is, for me, it was 5 qualified seller leads every day. Now, that's a big number.
It is.
That's what it was. And so that number 5, it wasn't the fact that I picked 5, or it was the consistency that for 3.5 years, without fail, every day. Every single day, I was consistent to that. And what I see I've hired so many people that are way more skilled than me, way more better on the phones, better at the closing table, way more than that. But the reason that I hired them to come and work in this role, this job or whatever, is because where I had been consistent, they hadn't.
Right.
And the consistency is the thing that changes everything else. But here's the deal: you wouldn't meet anybody in my life that thinks I'm consistent, because I'm not.
Isn't that funny?
I'm late, which is a bad habit. I get home at different times. Like I'm not a consistent person because I don't like consistency. It's not fun for me, right?
It's too restrictive for you.
It's too restrictive for me.
Yeah.
Yet I'm super consistent in the things that matter most, because I learned that that's a habit that I need to have in my life for success.
Absolutely.
And so what I would say, the number one thing I would tell a new agent is commit to being consistent in a lead generation result on a daily basis.
And that's such good advice. You know, we do Power Hour every morning, and you can count on your hands how many people show up, right?
Yeah.
And it's just that consistency. Learn how to do it. Break through that. Diana Kokosta visited us yesterday at Bold Graduation Lake Travis.
Yeah.
And people who are getting their license, like you said, it takes work. She said every dream has a toll booth.
Yeah.
I thought that was fascinating.
Yep.
You've got to pay.
I love that.
You've got to pay.
Absolutely. The other thing I would say is for an agent ready to take their business to the next level, hire a coach. Hire a coach, and because a coach is going to hire a MAPS coach for that.
Absolutely.
You know,
because they understand.
They get it. They've been in your position. And here's the other thing: is there's all kinds of coaching programs out there, and this is Nason, who's one of the top agents at the Northwest Market Center. He told me the other day, I think he'd be okay if I shared this. He said the coolest thing. He said, because he used to kick my butt on listing appointments. He was one of the agents you were talking about earlier, who used to beat me all the time. And he, honestly, if we went out today on a listing appointment, he'd win. I mean, he's really, really good. And he said, Tim, the difference between where you're at right now, the way I see it, the difference between where you're at and the difference in where I'm at, which is, by the way, Mason makes a ton of money.
Yeah,
he's one of the top agents in our company, and he says, but I'm still out there producing, selling houses, and the main difference is that my definition of a lead was different than your definition of a lead. See, I was always coached by my coaching company, which was not in Keller Williams, it was a different coaching company. So I was always coached by my coaching company that a lead, if they weren't ready to do business in the next 7 to 10 days, that I needed to move on, that I was looking for people who wanted to do business right now. And you were coached, because I was telling him earlier about how you were coached that if they want to do business within a year, actually the follow-up game is where you, and we had a whole conversation about this, and he said, just the simplest thing of the definition of what we thought a lead was the difference in you having this massive pipeline that you could start hiring people to work, and me continuing to need to get up in the morning and working my business. And there's no question about it. He's one of the most talented people you know. And he goes, a couple of years ago I started watching and I got it and I figured that out, and now I started building it. And it was a big difference maker for him. And I look back and I go, well, that wasn't because I was like really smart or figured that out. It's just I had a coach. See, here's what's cool. Keller Williams, if I think of Keller Williams in, well, 2 words, opportunity and leverage. Yeah. Gary Keller preaches leverage, and a lot of the other coaching companies preach, they try and help you be the best you can be at prospecting or the best you can be at marketing or whatever. And Gary's like, you don't really need to be the best. You want to be good enough to get it to a level where you could leverage it out and build a business out of it and then move on to the next thing.
Right.
And so MAPS coaching not only is coaching you about leverage and building a life worth living, but it's also they're bringing in coaches that have been there before and have been in that experience before and understand what you're going through.
Right.
They're going to push you. They're going to drive you. They're going to make you think different. They're going to hold you accountable, and it's going to be a game changer for you.
Yeah.
We've got another question. This one from Tomas Corzo.
Tomas.
On a personal level, what was your big why in 2012 working with Nathan, and what is your big why today?
It's a great question. So my big why in 2012 was very different. You know, it's funny when you're young, the things that are important to you, money, power, and fame, you know, those are like the things that you know, everybody wants to be rich and famous and all that stuff.
Well, glitter's okay still, even in your 40s.
That's right.
Nothing wrong with glitter. Let's just get that straight.
So
meaningful glitter.
So what was important at first? What was important at first was winning, right? That was an important thing for me. And
winning at all costs, right? Or just like winning, not for the
I wouldn't say
significance of it.
Really. I wouldn't say at all costs. I mean,
like House of Cards.
Not ethical ways. I don't mean ethical way. I just mean for the winning's sake.
Yeah, winning for winning's sake. Yeah, not a lot of depth to it.
Right.
And the number one thing there is that. So here's what it really came down to at the end of the day. In 2012, I was running so hard, working more hours than I ever worked, focused on. I'd never been so clear about what I wanted. I would never at the time have said, "This is my big why." I was just talking to a young guy the other day who asked me, he's like, "It's so hard to figure out my big why," and I said, "Look, here's the thing. It doesn't have to be this like mystical save the dolphins thing that's so altruistic that's gonna make everybody think you're Jesus, right? It's not. You don't have to worry about that." I said, what's the thing that when you wake up in the morning, you're thinking about it? And when you go to bed at night, you're thinking about it. And when you get to the office, you're thinking about it. And when you're waiting for the next person to answer the phone, you're thinking about it. That thing is because when I look back and I realize, when I think about what was my true big why in 2012, like Tomas asked, it was actually, you could call it 7th level MREA. What probably in the easiest way to say it was getting out of production. Mm-hmm. I realized that I don't love to go out on listing appointments and buyer consultations and show houses and those things. I don't love that. But I love to build business. And to me, it was a race to get to build a business that I could step out of. And so that idea of 7th level was my big why. That was it. Mm-hmm. And so the challenge with that was I achieved it in 5 years.
Right.
And then I
Your
had
17-year plan.
Yeah, I had no big why anymore. I'm like, okay, well,
what now?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that was tough for me. That my big why wasn't really that big. I thought it was, but it actually wasn't really that big. It was, but it was. There's no question about it. It was at the time. And the lesson there is that the clearer you are about what drives you, the more you can constantly think about that. So when I look back, I realized I was always thinking about 7th level. You could ask Liz, like I was at dinner, I'd be drawing on napkins like diagrams of how I'm going to get out of production and get into 7th level. Like it was totally driving me. And at the time I would have said like, oh, vacations, or I would have said like saving, giving back to my church or something. The reality was it was that, and honestly, that's okay. Like that, if that's what drives you at the time, that's okay. I was 24
At
years
the
old.
time.
When you're
I was
24,
years old.
it's
Yeah.
going
I
to be
think
different
that's
than,
I think that's what I'm hearing.
I'm a single guy.
And it's
I don't-
changed.
yeah.
And it
Your big
evolves.
why
It
is not a
evolves.
life sentence.
No,
It's not a life sentence. That's probably the smartest thing that we could say right now is that the
Absolutely.
big why is not a life sentence. It's what's driving you right now.
Right.
And as you grow and mature, that thing will develop and change. And so
Yeah.
for me today, it's really a kind of a mixture of two things. It's constant, never-ending improvement. That is definitely one thing that drives me on a regular
Yeah.
basis. Constant, never-ending improvement. Why would you ever put yourself through an Ironman, right?
Yeah.
It's about
which,
it's
by the
about
way,
constant, never-ending
is
improvement.
one of your goals. People don't
Yeah.
know that, right?
Yeah.
So you've done a half Ironman.
I have a
now?
half Ironman in May.
In May. Okay.
Yeah, but every time I'm out there training, I'm like, why am I doing this? Oh yeah, because I'm improving right here. That's it. I'm not improving here or here. It's not actually. My wife thinks I look really scrawny, and then I so it's not physically, it's mentally, right?
Yeah.
And so constant, never-ending improvement. And the other thing is creating opportunity. Creating opportunity for me is literally drives me more than I get so much fulfillment out of creating opportunity for other people.
Yeah,
I get
that's
so
cool.
excited about it. So
very
those two
cool.
things are
And how much more
today.
significant the second one is, and only from that's just your journey, right? That's just a natural
Yeah.
progression, and that's why people really they're challenged and frustrated by they don't know how, and they think they need some super powerful. So just
Right.
what is it that gets you up, and it's going to evolve and change, and that's okay.
We've got another question. This one from Casey Madison. Hey Tim, how is your team preparing for a shifting market?
Great question. We cut our overhead by 40% last year.
Whoa.
Yeah. Gary Keller challenged me to
40%.
cut it by 20, and I cut it by 40. Yeah.
Well done.
Well, it's just what happens is when you do get scatterbrained like that, you
Yeah.
get super fat. And all of a sudden, you have people in positions you don't need. You got 4 guys doing the job of 1.
Right.
You've got, just stuff because you can afford it, right? And I thought the market would have shifted by now,
Right.
long ago.
I think we all did.
Yeah, so we got really lean, and some of the ways that we got lean, we had to make some sacrifices. We also just got smart in a lot of ways, and we realized that if we actually hold to the thing that we say is our standard, we don't need all this other stuff. If we actually just do what we say we're going to do, and everybody on the team follows through with their commitments, we actually had a lot of fat for areas where we were just being lazy, right? And so we got really clear about our standards. And when you have an empire builder in play that can drive execution and accountability of that, it's a lot easier. So like
Right.
Chad, for you, if you're like me, then it's black and white. It's either you're doing it or you're fired.
Yeah.
Versus like and it since we don't like to go around firing people all the time, it ends up being like it's just not getting done. That thing that needs to get done just isn't getting done because we don't want to be firing people all the time and constantly. And so Matt really brought a lot of accountability to the things that I know need to get done. He's been able to be there to make sure that they get done.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Another one from Casey Madison. Thanks for the questions, Casey. And by the way, if you guys have more questions, go ahead and get those submitted as we wind things down here. Hey Tim, what is your daily habits that have made a big impact in your growth?
Daily habits have made a big impact on my growth. Visualization is probably a key one, and I know that sounds weird. That sounds like
Just explain it.
hippie woo-woo.
Just
yeah, it
explain
sounds.
I think it sounds
hippie-woo.
awesome.
Here's what visualization is for me. It's actually become more of a like standardized thing in my life today. But visualization is something that I've done for years. Since I was honestly since my first year in real estate, all it was daydreaming. That's it. If I'm ever by myself driving in the car or whatever, but I'm daydreaming about what I want my life to be like and what I expect it to be like out in the future. Okay, that's all it was. Now today, it's actually this thing where I get up in the morning and I will literally start typing in Evernote what my day, because I have my calendar, I look at my calendar, and I will literally, before I even brush my teeth, start typing out what I expect my day to look like. So this is about 2 habits. It's number 1, the habit of intention and the power of intention. So I've become a really, really intentional person. And the number 1 way I think you can do that is unlocking your unconscious mind. So here's the thing, like your unconscious mind is this massive, so it was described to me one time that imagine like this entire building with all these agents and running around and everything happening in this building. That's the unconscious mind. And your conscious mind is the doorman, the guy that just opens the door and decides who comes in and who doesn't. That's it, right?
Yeah.
And so what I've learned is that by visualizing my day and saying, okay, well, what do I intend to be the outcome of this meeting? What do I intend to be the outcome of my workout this morning? What do I intend to do at home between my workout and when I go to work? What's my intention for that? And when I'm able to be so clear that I can actually write down, like, oh, my intention is to hug, kiss, and laugh my girls and have breakfast with them. All of a sudden, I get home from my workout, and that's this thing. It's like I got to take a quick shower so I can get in the kitchen and do that.
Yeah.
It's on my mind, right? And so the habit of intention and the gratefulness habit would be the other one I'd talk about right now, which is I have this Bible verse sitting on my desk that I've had for years now. That I think my mom gave it to me like probably 10 years ago. And it's this thing. It says, "Be joyful always, give thanks in all circumstances." And for whatever reason, I don't know how this happened, but this was an accidental habit. I wake up in the morning and I immediately think of everything that I'm grateful for. And I go to bed at night and I think of everything I'm grateful for. And throughout the entire day, I'm constantly thanking God for the things in my life that I have and the love in my life, the relationships in my life. It's this habit that I don't try to do it. It just literally, it's always on my mind. It totally changes your perspective on the whole world.
Yeah, right. Because it's a habit.
Yeah.
Because you've trained yourself to be that way. And when you're in gratitude and appreciation, like another thing Diana said yesterday, she's grateful that she broke her foot.
Well, what you focus on expands,
absolutely. Because now she's grateful that she can stand in the shower to enjoy this warm water pressure.
That's right.
Right?
That's
that she
right.
actually can stand on her legs, right?
That's right.
Another thing I love about the unconscious, what you just said, the conscious and the unconscious, because the powerful things are in the unconscious.
Yeah.
They always say that the goal setting you do in your conscious, but the goal getting and where it happens is always in your
That's absolutely
that's really cool.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah, I love that.
I believe in that 100%.
Do we want to do any of the funny words?
I don't
Or are we
think
gonna
so.
skip those
If
today?
that's all right with you, we'll pass on words.
This is so good. We're not going to
great
make it
information. We just
I
do it
know.
with anything.
So good. Okay.
That's awesome. Tim, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you guys.
Yeah,
Thanks
we
for
love
having me.
having
I
you
appreciate
here.
it. I've been watching it. I think it's awesome y'all are doing it. Such great quality. So thanks for doing it.
And just like with your coaching calls, you should watch this again because there's other things
Again and again, you're going to
that
get
you
something
didn't pick
different.
up on
That's
the
right.
first time. They live on the flyerboxclub.com. They're going to live on the Facebook page. They'll be on YouTube and they'll be on KW Connect. So any of those places you can go and watch this interview over and over again.
Are we still live?
Yep.
So let's end with what's next for him,
Yeah,
right?
do it, Tim.
What's next?
What's
What's
next
next?
for Tim Heyl?
What's your goal for Ironman?
Yeah, Ironman goal. Okay, the audience, studio audience,
audience
wants
is
to know
getting,
what's your goal.
unruly.
That's where they're getting yeah. And then we even have animals. It's great.
It's a circus in here.
To finish.
And then you,
to finish the
what
Ironman?
is your Ironman? To finish your half Ironman? Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of
There's
an Ironman
there's
person in the crowd.
peanut galleries that think I should be able to do it in ridiculous times.
Okay.
That sound very daunting.
Your goal is to finish.
So definitely to finish. My goal is to do it in 12 hours, and we'll see how this
Okay.
half Ironman goes.
That's awesome. And then, so as far as we didn't even get to these other questions because it's been so good, but just for those that don't know, I mean, you
What's next
are
with our
now,
business?
and you're already in San Antonio, you're in Dallas, you're in Houston. Your team did over 3 million GCI last year, and you're growing like crazy. So just give us a little preview of what's to come.
Yeah, we're on. We'll hopefully break the 5 million GCI mark this year. We're actually in the process of launching 3 more local teams.
Okay.
We're in the process of launching in Nevada, in Colorado.
Thank you for saying it correctly.
Nevada. Yeah.
Perfect.
Nevada, Colorado, Florida.
Sweet.
And more markets to come after that. Expansion for us has wildly changed. It's become about getting in business with proven leaders in real estate and building partnerships rather than employee relationships. And so partnerships are ultimately what's driven the success of Keller Williams is entrepreneurship. And I'm a huge fan of entrepreneurship. I know that when you have your own equity and on the line, it's a totally different ballgame. And so we're focused on all of us, myself included, having a smaller numerator to a much bigger denominator. So we're excited to be getting in business with talented people across KW.
Well, I think that's so neat too because there's so many, not just mega agents, because a lot of times the mega agents want to get into leadership roles like mine, right?
Yeah.
Like who wouldn't want to run like a mega multi-billion-dollar company? It's pretty awesome because that's something they hadn't done before.
Right.
And then you have the people like me or team leaders out there that have been team leaders, that have gone back into production or whatever. And so you're seeing a trend that a lot of these really talented people that have stepped out of the leadership roles are excited about expansion because they love.
Here's what it is the ownership opportunity in KW, while it's amazing, 90% of it or more is taken by owners. And what we've learned is that team expansion is the next wave of ownership in real sellable businesses in the next 5 years in real estate.
Exciting.
So it's very exciting.
Those pirates, I'll tell you,
fun.
they're pretty amazing. It's fun.
Yeah.
Tim, it is so fun being part of your journey.
Thank you, Molly.
I have loved
I
every
appreciate
year.
everything you've done. You've added so much value to my life. So thank you.
Love it. And thanks for being on the show with us.
Chad, thank you for having me. This has been
How
awesome,
awesome.
man.
This is the quietest he's ever been. Usually you can't keep him down, but he's just like, this has been a coaching session, hasn't it? It's great.
I'll take it.
Well, hey, I gotta say congratulations to you on the success of Firebox. Seriously,
Thank you.
It's been
Pretty
unbelievable
amazing.
to watch.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You were here back in the day when I was first starting.
That's
and
right.
Failing forward.
To see everything you've done has been amazing.
Sometimes it feels like more failing than forward, but
Hey, but that's everybody. That's
Yeah.
success. If you
That's right.
if you peek behind Gary's curtain right now, I think you'd see the same thing, right?
That's right.
Everybody who's succeeding at a high level, it's messy,
Yeah.
it's nasty, but
fun.
it's fun. That's why the circle of trust is so important.
That's right.
You know,
Surround yourself with the right people.
But yeah, everything you guys do is such high quality. I'm so impressed.
thanks, Tim.
We are so lucky to have you here. So share this and watch it. Send it to people. This is so cool. We always post it on KW Connect as well.
Yep.
But get this message out. What a story.
Yeah.
This
Thank
is
you so
awesome.
much, Tim.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for
Have a good
watching.
weekend.